Good evening. My name is Juraj Bezecny, and I would like to welcome you on the second edition of the Space Technology Meetup. Before handing the stage to our presenter, Albert Bouchal, who will speak about the Czech Rocket Society, I would like to say my gratitude to the Technological Center for providing us the spaces and this venue. Without them, it wouldn't be possible to do so. So I would like to maybe give a short space for Albert Bouchal from Technologické centrum.
Okay, so good evening, everyone. Thank you. So good evening, everyone. Last time I was standing here mainly on behalf of the Technology Center, Prague. And today I'm going to be speaking about my project, basically, that we've founded with a few people. And I'll take you on a journey of the first independent Czech Rocket Society. But on behalf of the Technology Center Prague, I would like to welcome you on our premises, and hopefully you will enjoy the evening. We'll spend some time today together. So if I may start, my name is Albert, and I'm the Vice President of the Czech Rocket Society currently. I've studied air transportation at the Czech Technical University in Prague, but I've started to be really interested in space activities, not only of Europe, but also of the world, back in 2018, I think, maybe even earlier. And since then, I've started to be really watching every rocket launch and every space activity, space missions that go to space. Started to be really, I guess, yeah, really interested about it, and that's why we've founded this Czech Rocket Society, and I'll tell you more about it. Before we start, there is also a Slido which we've made, but maybe you will not be able to use it if you're watching this later. But for those watching now, I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have, either live for you or on the Slido. So let's maybe start. So as I've said, okay, waiting for some people. Good evening, hello. So this will be a presentation about our journey, how we started, how it's going, and what are we going to do in the future, possibly. And right from the start, you can see some people from our team, which were part of the test campaign of the project. I will tell you more about it later. But just as you can see, there is something really interesting standing behind us. And that's one of our projects. But let's get back to who we actually are. As I've said in the start, we are independent. That means we are not part of any school or university. We try to be we try to pick talents from all the universities and high schools in the Czech Republic. We are mainly university students, but we also have a few students from high schools, as we think that if they start early, they can really be important for the society later on. Our primary goal is to contribute to the Czech space environment by growing up talents and students who really like rockets and space activities and cosmonautics to be really competitive in terms of European space, maybe even world environment space. And we try to give them the platform for realizing projects that they will have on their CVs, and maybe these projects will help them later on in their jobs. So as I've said, these are the schools of our members, mainly from the Czech Republic here on top. But also we have Czech students who are studying abroad, mainly in Great Britain, the Netherlands, Denmark, United States. We also cooperate with students who are in our society, but maybe leave for Erasmus project for 1 semester. And on the left, you can see the programs our members study. So I will get back to it again, but we are a society not only of engineers, but we also want to give them some management skills. So the people who are in the society are not necessarily like mechanical engineers or some rocket engineers as you would think. Yes, there is a majority of them, but there is also other people, and I'll show that later on. But in the beginning, let's talk about the foundation, the actual foundation of the society. You can see on the picture that we are on an online call, and we were founded back in 2021, which is not that far ago, but it was still COVID times, and we had to form ourselves online before really meeting up for the first time, because it wasn't possible. And this was one of the first calls we've had about the structure, about the visions of the society, and about first projects. But you might say why we have been first, and where did the idea come from, actually? So the inspiration, of course, came from foreign societies that have already existed before. For example, the German VAR has been here for 60 years, which is kind of exciting that someone has founded a society in Germany 60 years ago. They are still working now. Then there is, for example, Danstar from Denmark, but there are many, many more. The most important for us was the DARE from the Netherlands, their society, where one of our founders, we're basically 3 co-founders, but our first founder or the idea bearer was studying in the Netherlands, and he came with the idea, why not in the Czech Republic? Why there is nothing like this in the Czech Republic? And that's when we tried to start with a project called The Hitchhiker, or Stopař in Czech, which is basically takes its name from the book The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, of course. And it has some inspiration from the first Falcon Heavy launch, where SpaceX sent red Tesla Roadster to space and to Mars. So actually in the payload section, payload bay of the Hitchhiker rocket, there was a car, red car, which we tried to imitate a bit of the looks of the mission. But you can see here some properties of the rocket, and it was not that big. It didn't go really high, but that wasn't the main purpose. The main purpose was to inspire. The main purpose was to acquire as many students for the start as we could. And the platform for that was the Czech Rocket Challenge. So the Czech Rocket Challenge, as you can see here, are 4 logos. So currently we are into our fourth edition of the Czech Rocket Challenge. And the Czech Rocket Challenge back in 2021 was organized by the European Space Agency Business Incubation Center here in Prague. And they've come with this idea to start this initiative. And there were a couple of students who joined the Czech Rocket Challenge at the start. And then there was a time during the competition where the students from the Netherlands, as I've talked about earlier, came to the competition and introduced himself to the students that were part of the Czech Rocket Challenge and introduced the idea for us. And that's how the idea was actually realized. And we started to build the Hitchhiker rocket, but it wasn't the part of the competition, as the people who became part of the Czech Rocket Society were already working on their own projects for the competition, but we've just formed a society. So, speaking of the Czech Rocket Challenge, the first edition was held by Izabik, as I've said, but then Czech Rocket Society took part of organizing the competition ourselves. And this is the general information of the competition for this year. It's basically all the same. We try to get as many students as we can from high schools, from universities that still aren't familiar with rockets, with rocketry, and we try to teach them how to build their own rocket, how to make it safe, how to make the best report or documentation for the rocket they've made. And in the end, we organize a launch day where the best 20, approximately 20 rockets of those teams are launched. As you can see here, there are some rocket parameters that are frequently used. There is some range of typical apogee, typical weight. The competition isn't about getting to space or getting to most altitude, but it's also about the report, about the documentation, about the teamwork, about guessing where the rocket, how high the rocket will go, and based on that, you get points. There are also some competition categories that you can take. Yeah, and I have also a little video here which introduces the last edition of the Czech Rocket Challenge. So in short, this is how it generally looks like during the launch day, during the final day. Yeah, and the competition is basically how our society started back in 2021. But since then, we've come a long way. And I would like to also introduce you to our other projects. We don't only organize the Czech Rocket Challenge, we don't only take the best talent out of Czech Rocket Challenge for our society, but we also make other rockets, other equipment, and yeah, we raise talents for the space industry in Czechia and Europe. So as you can see here, we started with only 15 members with the Hitchhiker project, but next year we've come up to 44 members, where we've started the CANSAT project, which I will speak about soon. And yeah, there's the Czech Rocket Challenge, which keeps appearing each year. The people are kind of fluctuating. Some of them are joining, some of them are leaving. Not everyone really finds it so interesting for themselves, but the best stay with us. Yeah, it's just the timeline of our project, which I will speak about soon. But if we skip to this year, we've already have 90 members, and maybe we'll have more next year. We got more research groups, more projects, and yeah. Now, as I was saying previously, we are not only engineers, but we also need someone to manage the whole society. So that's why we kind of function as a company. We try to function as a company. We have our own board. We have our Bureau of Safety, which I will speak about. And then we, for example, have a PR team and support positions that can be from marketing to only like photographing our events and trying to do the best to support our teams and projects. Yeah. And here is the Czech Rocket Challenge.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, of course. Of course. Okay, good question. Yeah. So I would say we would be somewhere between second year of bachelor, because we already have some members who have graduated, and they are just as a support to those who are younger, to give them their own experience. But we also have people from, I don't know, first or second year of high school even. So yeah, good question. Thank you for that.
And just another question.
Okay.
Do you use solid or liquid fuel?
Yes, for the Hitchhiker project, we used solid fuel, but I will show you that we are also working on a liquid fuel rocket engine for now, but aiming to also create a liquid fueled rocket. So on this picture, you can see a picture from our launch campaign where we've got in touch with society making audiovisual production. So that's what you can see on the tables. They were basically live streaming our launch. We also had some drones, some studio with moderator and so on. So it was pretty exciting. But here are the more projects, just briefly. So apart from the Czech Rocket Challenge, you can see here the Hitchhiker launch. But a few months later, a few people from the society also started on building a spark torch igniter, which was their bachelor thesis project. And later it became really important for the society. Here you can see our bigger rocket, CANSAT, and here are students project called Cassiopeia. where they tried to vector the engine, so to say, so they could make basically steerable rocket. Yeah, but we are basically celebrating 3 years now, so that's why we have 3 successful seasons behind us, and yeah, over 5 different projects. Here you can see finally the Sherpa rocket for the project CANSAT. So for a bit of context, Project CANSAT is again a high school competition, not organized by us, but by a resource office of Education Resource Office of European Space Agency here in the Czech Republic. It's about building small CANSATs, which are satellites of this size. Basically, it's a satellite in a can packed with sensors of air quality, whatever you think of. They are trying to make the best CANSAT, best documentation for the CANSAT, and get the best data they could. And they compete between themselves, and the best team goes to the superfinals, to the European superfinals. Whereas we decided to build a launcher for those CANSATs, because previously it was only dropped down from an airplane, from a small airplane or a drone. And we figured, why don't we build a rocket for it when it's supposed to simulate a space mission? So that's why Sherpa actually started to exist. You can also see some properties. As you can see, it's a bigger rocket than the Hitchhiker. And when we are not carrying CANSATs and we are just testing it for ourselves, we, for example, use Batamat as our passengers for the rocket. So they've come to 1 kilometer altitude during the last launch. And it also uses a solid motor, which is located here. Then this is the avionics bay, the payload section where 4 of the CANSATs fit in, and then the parachute. Yeah. Here you can see how it launches. It's a very cool, I would say, enjoyable moment, because we also have our own system to just launch it wirelessly. So there is always one honorable member of the society who pushes the red button, and it goes like this. And then for supporting our projects, we created these research groups, each specifically working on a different parts of the rocket, or working on their own project, basically. So the solids, as you can see, they are making the engines, the motors for the rockets, be it the Hitchhiker or the smaller rockets for the Czech Rocket Challenge, because I haven't mentioned that, but in the challenge, everyone gets a motor from us, so that everyone is on the same level of yeah, they have the same motor, so they can compete. But they also, solids also do make motor for our Sherpa rocket. Avionics, I think it's pretty much self-explanatory, and recovery is working on the safety system, be it the parachute. Yeah, here you can see the smaller engine, smaller motor, used also for the Czech Rocket Challenge, and the test stand where we can see how much thrust the motor can do. The fuel looks like this for the smaller motor, but for the bigger motor, it's a bit scaled up. And you can see it here. Yeah, that's one of the motors that powers CANSAT Sherpa rocket.
Just a question.
Yeah.
How much fuel can carry? So how long does it last? can make
Okay.
thrust.
Yeah, it's not for well long. It's basically most used rocket fuel in this field, in this like model rocketry. I think the bigger one, as you can see, burns about 3-4 seconds. And it can carry the Sherpa rocket, which is about 14 kilograms heavy, up to 1100 meters. The smaller one is just about 2 seconds, and it varies between what rockets do you put it on. But I'm not actually sure about the amount of fuel that's inside. But for the smaller one, I think it's something about 150 grams. Yeah, 166 grams of fuel in the smaller rocket. Yeah. So the avionics, it's one of our coolest teams ever, because they are a great team working together flawlessly. They have their own like GitHub with all documentation, so you could check it out if you're interested in that. They are not only working on a computer for a rocket, which doesn't already look like this. This is an old version of the computer, but they also work on a ground station and on the communication with the rocket as it flies. Last time we were also able to gather camera feed from the rocket as it flies, so that's pretty interesting. And they're just doing their best to provide our rockets and our projects with the best avionics possible. Yeah. Then there's recovery. As I've said, it's mainly about the parachutes, but what's interesting this year is they're working on a so-called tender descender, which acts as a, basically ensures that these two drop parachute, which deploys at as the first one, and then the main parachute, which deploys after it, so that they deploy consequently at the right time. So the drop parachute only makes the rocket a bit slower on this end, but right about 200 meters above ground, the main parachute opens and it's descending tenderly, as the tender descender name implies.
Can you reuse the body of the rocket?
Yes, for the Sherpa rocket, most definitely. If the parachute works, of course, we are able to just refill the motor, change the batteries, and if there are cansats, we can put more inside. So we've already flown one rocket 3 times. It's still the same one. Yeah, it wasn't like that before. We've also lost some, but nowadays it looks quite good in terms of the reusability, so to say. Yeah, but it's not that cool as the SpaceX Falcon 9, but yeah, it is. That's true. Yeah, so finally, this is the Star Fox, which is our liquid fuel demonstrator. Uses isopropyl alcohol and nitrous oxide for a fuel anoxidizer, respectively. The expected thrust is 3 kilonewtons, and here you can see the assembly of the stand and of the rocket motor demonstrator right here, and the tanks right here. Basically, these days, we are in the middle of testing it. We are in the middle of doing tests with water. So just before we put the isopropyl alcohol and nitrous oxide inside, we do it with water to test how it's withstanding pressures and if everything is as we've projected to be. You can see some pictures. This is a picture from the beginning. I've said that Project Thundercat was really important for us. And that's because it's supposed to become the spark torch for igniting the Star Fox. So basically this is the thrust chamber assembly, and this part of the Thundercat project will be mounted on here, kind of, and this fire will serve as an igniter for the motor. Yeah. So the hot fires should happen sometime after June, I think. So if you follow us on social media, you might get some more information about this. Yeah, but I think it's going to be pretty cool, and our teams are working really hard to achieve that, because yeah, we've been through some problems, and it hasn't been easy to really get to where we are. It's trying, yeah. Another project, so to say, we tried to establish another like board, but it's for safety. So we call it Bureau of Safety, and because we do rocket science and it's not always safe, and it's never safe, but we try to maximize the safety, both of our members, of course, but also of the equipment and of all the things that could go wrong. We try to make them independent of the actual activities, so they kind of oversee the activities of the project and try to see if there is something wrong, and if there is, how to correct it so that the risk is minimalized. There are safety officers, which can look like this. They use procedures to basically tick off the boxes if everything goes well. And yeah, that's how we try to make it really safe, because we know that it's no easy feat, and something really could go wrong. We've seen some cases in the past in other societies or other countries where during tests they've had an explosion or something. So you have to ensure that there is no one really close to it when it happens. And that's what the Bureau of Safety is for.
Do you have any support to establish safety procedures, or is it just a will of?
We have the heritage from the projects that our members have been part of already. So as I've said, we have members who have studied in different countries where there are societies. We try to be connected to those societies through communication platforms where we exchange these expertises. But in terms of safety procedures, we just try to look at the systems from an independent view and try to ask silly questions, which are questions that the members that are working on the projects would have never asked themselves. For the project management, we try to be in line with the ECSS, for example, the European standards. But yeah, for the safety, I'm not actually sure if we use specifically some standards for it. Yeah, so these were briefly our projects, but you might ask what's next, where we are heading, and what are we going to do in the next few years. So the main thing is, and we've actually established this goal back in 2021 when we were founded, to really compete at the European Rocketry Challenge, which is actually something like Czech Rocket Challenge, but just bigger, for bigger rockets and for really advanced societies in Europe. So that's our main goal, but we would also like to build supersonic rocket that will be more powerful than Sherpa, and it will become the basic knowledge base for the rocket that will be at Europe. So we are taking small steps. We've started with solid rockets, small solid rockets. Then we've just made it bigger, but it's still, Sherpa is still pretty, I wouldn't say primitive, but it's not like some advanced rocketry. But the sonic rocket, it will be no easy feat. And after we build Sonic, we might go for a rocket that's already gonna have liquid motor inside. And that's when we can go to Europe and compete in the highest of categories. But if that doesn't work out, we could also take Sonic and compete in the solid fueled categories. I have here sustainable board and leadership, so that's one of the problems too, not only next steps. As the founding members are slowly getting off school, there will need to be someone always to step in to replace them. So that's one thing we are trying to achieve, to really pick members that are able to take in the positions of the board members and also the chief managers of the projects. Because what we've noticed is that many people just want to play, so to say, and do the things that they've learned in school. But I would say in the Czech Republic, there are no really good schools for the project management inside of the engineers societies. So that's also what we're trying to achieve, to really show them how it's done, how we think it's done the best, and maybe they can use it in the future. We would also like to apply for some funded projects like Erasmus or from the Technology Agency of the Czech Republic. And as we live on, we would like to have more outreach, more management, more self-development, and more things to do to keep our society running. The thing is, for which some of you might also attend this Space Tech Meetup, is how can you participate? So that's why I've also prepared these slides. We are kind of worried about the legislation because in the Czech Republic, the air law doesn't include rockets or model rockets inside of the laws. So for the launches and tests, we kind of have to zigzag between being a model airplane, between being a drone or basically unmanned system. So we are cooperating with the UCL, which is Civil Aviation Authority of the Czech Republic, and also the air traffic control. But it's still beginning to be a problem for basically whole Europe, that you cannot launch that high and you cannot launch that far because there's always something you could hit, and that's what you don't want to do. So then we would also appreciate some office, workshop, or warehouse spaces. We have an amazing space in the Prague Planetarium, but we would also like to have some space where we can hang out together, because all we have to do now is that we have to meet somewhere in the libraries or outside. We also would appreciate the access to a van or car. You always have to rent one. The mobility is really a problem when you build things like this, and you have to carry with you these stands and all the equipment. it's getting kind of hard to always have the right things in the right place. So these could be the technical problems, you could say, but we also have some human resources ones because, of course, you could say it's still a voluntary activity, so not all the people are as into it always. So we've had some problems with soft skills because not everyone is fond of each other, and yeah, we don't really know how to solve it. So if you had some tips on how to make students really motivated all the time, that would be great. And then there is this this point that engineers are not managers. We've already mentioned it, but we would like to be in front of saying to the schools that it's really important for the engineers to be able to be good managers. I mean, not everyone, of course, but the world and Europe needs these people who are able to really manage teams, to manage work, and be a good engineers at the same time. And what we've also learned, and is a kind of a bummer, but still there are disadvantages and advantages to this kind of work, is that the hybrid work kills the team spirit, because as we cannot always meet on site, it's kind of hard for the members to engage. And yeah, so I just wanted to point out these things that we are having problems with, and yeah. We also, I would like to thank our partners here, because without them we wouldn't be existing, at least not for long. And we've created this tier system where everyone can support us as we try to build really a space community that will make Czechia great in space, or greater. And we also approach each partnership individually. So if you had any specific question or remarks, what you would like us to do for you, we are happy to speak to you about it. We already have experience with going to our partners' events. We are proud to really say that they are the ones who are really important for us. And all of the things you can see here, we've already done for someone. So yeah, if there is someone who could use some of these things from a society that's really beginning to be seen in the Czech community, let us know on the email address or on social media, and we can talk about what we can do for each other. So these are the partners. If you know someone from these companies, thank them for me. But I thank them now again. And yeah, again, without them, we wouldn't be existing for so long. And in terms of our members, we are always open to new engineers, new talents. And as I've said multiple times, we are not the society only for engineers, but also if you do anything that could be connected to rockets, we would be happy to speak to you about your possible engagement with us. And yeah, here's the QR code if you want to sign up, but you can also find the more information on our web pages. Yeah, all we require is that you have to be at the university or high school if you're really good. You have to have an active interest of cosmonautic space or rockets in general. If you are not, and maybe you would like to become, we can also help with that, because we really know a lot about what's happening, so we can try to inspire you, and you just have to be responsible. You have to have a team spirit, and we have no other requirements basically. And yeah, that's going to be probably all from my side. So also on this QR, you can find a link tree for all our links, for our web pages, for our social media. And you can follow us there to see what we are working on throughout the year. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, now question times.
I don't know if there is something on Slido.
Slido. If someone is from online viewers interested, you can post this question on the Slido. And I have also received some questions via the YouTube chat.
Okay.
I hope I'm not butchering his name. Asked, how do you finance yourself?
How do I find?
How the Czech organization fund itself?
Oh, how we were founded?
No funding.
Oh, funding. Okay. So we get funding from the partners, as I showed here. There are different tiers. So for different amount of funding, we can give something back for the partners. But there is also financing from each year. The members pay some amount of money for the society. It's not much, of course, but this money is able to cover basic activities of the board, for domains, for the uniforms, for example, and so on. So that's basically all the funding we can get so far. Yeah.
How many guys were registered?
I would have to check out the numbers.
Because we have 2 here, plus
Yeah.
2 organizers.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
That doesn't matter.
But we will keep the recording for later.
Okay.
It's going to
Yeah.
be published. Is there any age limit if someone wants to join your group?
Okay, no, there is not. It's only limited by the lower years of high school and before graduation universities.
Any questions from the audience?
Yes, Melissa, you mentioned that you have some issues with the aviation law.
Yeah.
There are punching buckets, and if you are targeting solid buckets,
Yeah.
then it's
Good question.
they don't know that how it's possible. or-
Yeah, we have thought about that because we have been searching for places we could use, because it's not only problem of the legislation, but I've also mentioned that the areas that could be launched from are really a problematic field. So we also thought of contacting authorities in terms of defense or army, where they can maybe provide us with their areas, and maybe we could have some deal with us. And the reason why we thought it could be possible is because the European Rocketry Challenge is organized in Portugal, and it's in cooperation with Portuguese Army, and they are launching over the ocean, which we don't have an ocean in the Czech Republic, but it's with the cooperation of the army. So maybe there are some options. Working on it. Thank you for the question.
There was another question in my mind that somehow we covered the topic, that you also have research how to control and steer the
Yes.
rockets. Is it like that what you can do at this moment, or due to that very low altitude, it's not that important?
It's still not that important mainly for the solid fueled rockets too, because they only burn for a few seconds. So there is not much added value of steering it. But after we have the liquid fuel engine, we will need to do something about it. It might not be the thrust vector control, but maybe some gyroscopes or controllable flight surfaces like fins or something like that. Yeah.
I was thinking, which country do you think is basically most advanced rocket science?
Okay, in terms of students, you mean? Okay. Yeah, in terms of students, I would say the VAR Society and many more in Germany. So maybe Germany because of the heritage. But the Netherlands and the DARE Society, it's Delft based. They are also really advanced and one of the best known ones in Europe. But there is also Switzerland, for example, and so on. Yeah. But in general, from the perspective of Europe, probably the biggest countries of the European Space Agency, the members of European Space Agency. So to say France, Italy, maybe Spain, they are also making rockets on big scale. And yeah, also Germany, of course.
Are there launches public?
The European Space Agencies or?
When you are launching the rockets,
our. Yes, some of them are. For example, the Czech Rocket Challenge, you will come and see some of the launches throughout the day because we launch from like 9 a.m. until 4 p.m. that day. So it was on the 12th of July this year. So it's held in Brno. So if you want, you can come see it. But also not for the test launches, we don't invite anyone because we are hard at work, not able to be there for anyone like our partners or any visitors. But for the launch of the CANSAT competition, it's also possible to welcome some of people from outside. Yeah, you're welcome. Any other questions from YouTube? Maybe the Slido, I don't know.
Maybe while checking, is there any handbook for a small rocket design?
Okay, I guess you could find a few, but the small rocket 3 is more about try and fail approach, where the handbooks probably tell you how to do it in general, like what materials to use, what tools to use, how to make this and that, but each rocket is different, and I would say that there are, of course, some best practices, but you wouldn't find them in the handbooks. So either you have your own knowledge base or you try to collaborate with someone who's already done something similar.
Okay. And Angelo asked, have you considered the potential for bringing in the needed manager of project management skills?
Like someone from the outside to do a lecture for us? Okay, that's a good question. Probably not in the moment, but we've heard there would be some interest in the Czech Republic to have some platform for just enthusiasts to join activities like ours. But we were founded as a student society, so that's probably how it will stay for a few years at least.
And have you considered using the hybrid rockets, or why
Okay.
not use them?
Yeah, good question. There is also a different society than us. It's being founded around the same time, only at the Czech Technical University. and they are working on hybrid rocket motors and rockets fueled by hybrid rocket. We haven't thought of using them yet. We kind of skipped that part, and from the solid we went right to the liquid ones. But there are some advantages and disadvantages of this kind of fuels. Yeah, we don't have any particular experience with that.
Okay.
Okay.
Questions?
Can we finish? Usually, when in other context, not this one, when things are not that complex, you say it's not rocket science.
Yes, yes,
But
yes.
here, no.
That's true.
Is it deep?
That's what we frequently say too.
Okay.
That it's rocket science. Actually, it actually is. Yeah. So if something is hard and our members fight to do it right, you cannot say nothing, right? Because you cannot say it's not rocket science, because it is. Good point. Yeah. Okay. Thank you really much for your attendance and for the people online for the questions. And I'll be happy to see you at our events or maybe in our inboxes with your emails. And yeah, we would just like to collaborate with anyone who would like to help the Czech space as we want to. Yeah. So some closing remarks maybe from the organizer. I don't know. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so one more time, again, thank you for all people who attended here online, and we are looking forward to see the future events. And we may be short information about us. Basically, our goal is to provide you overview of subject exists here primarily in the Czech Republic, involved in the space industry, space research, in the application of space data, or application of space-based technologies for making life better on the planet Earth. Also, we want to show you why they exist, which problems they solve, which problems are they facing by themselves, actually which skills you need if you might one day consider joining yourself aerospace